Yeah,
Wait, well, there we go.
Oh, snap. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Do You Social?
No,
No.
This is Raw.
this is Raw.
Do You
Our
Raw?
short and raw Thursday special.
That's
Yes.
right.
You will get
Thank you,
used to the
guys.
schedule because now you're here for these. So,
I know.
yes. And I believe
Oh,
that's
yeah.
my cat who's also come to enjoy and join the episode. Hello, buddy. So here we are. It's Thursday. We've gotten a lot of stuff done. Yesterday, we went to the bank. We won't say which bank, but we talked to a banking officer about the arrangement that we have here with Dualistic Unity, the various parts of the company, the investors that we're working with, as well as the structure of everything as we go forward. And it was very, very nice to talk to them. Positive news. Everything's very much in process. Dualistic Unity, as an official organization, though we've been in official business for several years now, is making great strides into the future. It's really kind of exciting, and it's a whole other kind of game. Like, it reminds me of so many various different games that you've played in your life, possibly. Like, well, obviously there's Monopoly, but then there's all the tycoon games, right? You ever play any of the tycoon games? Railroad Tycoon, Theme Park, anything like a hospital?
Loved those.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it was just like, this is fun, because there was really like no risk in it. And you just have to start over.
That's it.
It's kind of how I look at everything. And it's just because, man, I've started over so many times. I feel like, home is the ground, and then you just build up from there. And you're like, oh, this has been a fun journey. We'll end up back at home eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this has been a lot of fun in just being able to build something, but also in, I don't know, exercising trust and faith in a lot of ways. I've been learning this a lot over the last 2 years of doing retreats and groups and stuff like that. But it's cool to just watch you two do your thing in these meetings and ask questions I wouldn't have thought of and have ideas about the business that I just haven't had. And it really reminds me like why it became so important to get out of the way. The insight that it's not about me is probably one of the hardest ones to really apply. It's not about getting it. It's kind of like saying, understanding that there's nowhere to go. Right. But then don't use that as somewhere to go. Now it's like, I know there's nowhere to go. That's something I'm going to master. Now you're going somewhere again. Right. And so it's the same with if you want to lead, empower. Right. It's not about being at the front of anything. It's very much about reminding everybody else that they have more potential and more ideas and more everything than you do on your own. That together, when all of us are allowed to express ourselves equally, there is more that we can do. And it's been very fucking cool to just sit back. And now we have investors coming on board. We have, Oren and Fiona and Jackie and Jazz. And like, these are people that we're working with who have their own ideas. They have their own skill sets. They have things that they're going to contribute to this as it grows. And it's just very cool to watch. It's inspiring. So that said, it's Thursday Raw. I'm going to pass the mic over now because this is fun. This whole thing of us being in a room, we're going to have a new setup at some point in the near future, by the way, where we've got maybe 3 microphones. So that way you can hear everybody equally, because I know sometimes we'll lean back. We'll move over. Exactly. But it's exciting times. And I want to say I'm very excited to get back into playing some video games.
Likewise. Yeah, it's incredibly exciting times. And shout out to everyone who's been involved with DU, because I'm even, as much as I was, one of the people who was here the whole time, like, I feel like I'm just getting the sense that, like, oh, Dualistic Unity is like just the organic growth of anyone who wants to take part, really the organic growth of everyone, period, but especially when it comes to, the business side and even what it is, or what the way you think about the podcast. Like, for a while, it felt like something that I came to an insight and I got something. And there was something that was then being discussed in this context, the conversation, the recognition, and all that stuff. And as I've realized more in myself that it is just about showing up and being myself, and that degree of, like self-acceptance in a sense, or at least just like willingness to keep doing things and making making it more about what you're doing and the attention you're giving it than how you're doing. Because that shift, it can feel, if it is about how you're doing, then that potential is in everything that you do. How am I doing here? How am I doing here? You could judge yourself for anything, and then start judging yourself for how much you're judging yourself, or judging yourself for how little you're judging yourself, or trying to get to a point that you can really like tie yourself up in trying to be like, I have let go of everything. I don't do these things. I don't do those things. And while, recognizing where, you had certain needs, or you were able to see yourself in a certain way because of maybe certain things you focused on, it doesn't mean that you then have to like go the other direction where you actively like try not to do those or hide yourself from things, because that is also settling on some certainty that means something about you. Like specifically for me, like I worked out, my whole life very consistently. Last few months haven't as much. More recently, started doing it a little more because I saw it wasn't like that thing that was the issue. Like my body's a functional thing. Like it's nice to feel decent and in decent shape and whatnot, but it's just finding that balance based on the context of your life, instead of it being, something that you almost have to do. Because for me, it became something where if I didn't do it, I would feel bad about myself. So sometimes you got to go through certain periods where you don't do it and you're like, okay, all right, I don't feel bad about myself for not doing it. We're good there. And you can, start reincorporating it into more of your routine. But again, that's going to differ for everyone, for everything that you're doing. But this hard and fast line where it's like, you can kind of start feeling better about yourself because you're not doing those things. Oh, I'm above lifting weights. I'm above wearing this or that, or focusing on this thing, or, watching sports. I don't watch sports anymore because I'm above that. It's like, maybe you just have a lot of other things you're doing in your life and you don't have the time to do it, but to think that makes you more because you're not doing certain things that are quote unquote low consciousness. Like we have had drinks the last 4 nights. We've gone out to beers. I definitely thought for a while, like, oh, can't drink, can't go out, can't have a good time there.
Oh, I can drink.
It's not about that. I was thinking maybe tonight, Terminal, ripping a few tequila shots.
Yeah, you never know. I want to say before I pass it over to Amanda quickly that it's always that, I'm above that.
Yeah.
It's always that. And so it's important, I think, like, because we've had conversations recently where it's become very clear it's not about the words, it's not about the conversation, it's not about anything like that. On the other hand, it's not about those things, because those things are how you express yourself, right? So you can get so caught up in it's like, no, the deep cerebral thing is just shouldn't be done. Oh, let's all just grunt and break into ecstatic dance, and it's like, but neither one is bad. Like, it's not bad to be silent. It's not bad to have the cerebral conversation. It's bad to not even bad. It's not bad at all. None of it's bad. It's it's defining yourself by it. That's really what it is, because then you need to do it, or then you need to avoid it, or then you need to vilify it, or then you need to judge it. You have to watch out for it. It's never just what you're doing, right? Because, and again, while I've said it's not about the words are fun. You can have a lot of fun with words. We've laughed about ridiculous things where you're just like, this is a fun combination of words. Let's just throw that around. We did it yesterday. We were walking down the street. We just saw a funny sentence, and all of a sudden we were reordering the sentence
we were
in as many ways that we could, and laughing more and more at each one because of the absurdity of it. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. And then you can go, well, look at how much we learned from that about the absurdity of it. And then you can laugh at the fact that you're learning from absurdity, which is absurd. And so there's this cycle, I guess, is what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with the seriousness. There's nothing wrong with the lightness. There's nothing wrong with the sadness. It's the defining yourself by it. Because I'm going through this right now. This is where I am in the spectrum, above or below where I was previously, and therefore where others are or were previously. Where it's just It's just difference. That's really all it is. But there's always that temptation to go, I'm doing this because I am better than I used to be.
I'm doing this because I know best. I have done all the research, everyone. Put your pens and papers down. I have done all the work. I have found the way.
The way.
Oh, right. The way. All caps. TH motherfucking E. But it's just a way to pretend to feel better. Because I don't actually feel better when I'm doing all those things, or when I'm doing the ultimate superior thing. I don't feel as satisfied as I'd like it to appear, and it's because it's not honest. It's just me finding a way. This is coping in real time. This is my favorite way to cope, and everyone should do it. Amanda's Coping 101 on every shelf in America. You're like,
You don't have one?
People do ask if I am selling anything, and it's like, no. It just because it's people are always trying to define everything just to feel more certain, right? And there have been so many times where I have heard someone describe me to me, and they're like, Amanda, you're so like this, and I was just like, wouldn't it be so easy if that were the case? If I were just one thing, if I were just one perception, if I could understand reality through just one perspective, wouldn't that be nice? But it doesn't need to be that way, because as much as I have enjoyed, as much as I've enjoyed validation, it always came at the price of just knowing deep down that validation for that certainty that I just sold to someone else isn't really certainty. So all the validation is empty. And as much as it feels fun, it feels empty. And so it's not that it's a bad thing, is that the ripple is something I just didn't want to experience over and over. It just stopped being worth it for me.
Yeah.
Not that it was bad, and I didn't all of a sudden realize it was bad. I didn't have this ultimate recognition. I have seen the light. It just stopped being worth it to try to validate myself and pretend that it was making me feel better.
Yeah, that's kind of the light, That's really what it is. Like, it's we keep wanting to jump onto an insight, like this is going to change my life, but it's really just that moment of insight that changes your life. Like, actually just being in it. You're just going, oh, that's self-honesty. That's self-honesty. That's all that is. There's no peace to get to so much as just an acceptance of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because, and it gets complicated because I understand I'm saying this as a host of a podcast where we talk about shit like this, and you're just like, well, if it doesn't need to be talked about, then why are you talking about it? Yeah, because we can. And I mean, the rest of the time I'm not. But I never do it because there's a sense that I can get anyone anywhere, or that there's any credit to be achieved by it. Like, I'm just having this conversation right now. Half the time I don't even know if I'm making any sense. But I'm doing my best to express what I've gone through, and I'm doing my best to just, I guess, sift through this experience of being me as transparently as possible. Because my perspective of everything being me, I'm just in a constant state of self-conversation. But that's why when somebody comes up to me, they're like, oh my God, you've changed my life. I'm like, nope, because it feels weird. It feels weird, almost like the person is just creating an image of me and putting that on me, because they're certainly not giving it to me. I haven't done a fucking thing. I can't. Right? But that's a different thing, because once upon a time, there was a feeling of like, yeah, I've done a good job.
I helped them.
I helped those people, exactly. And then you're just like, yeah, but that real good feeling about, helping them, that's kind of helping you. So it makes you wonder if there's a bias.
Quite a bit of one, because like and that self-honesty, when you are thinking about being nice to someone or helping someone or wanting someone to see you in a certain way, like it's all for yourself. And like there is that side of it that's manipulative, trying to get someone, wanting someone to like you, as much as that whole aura of like being nice, love and light, it's seen, there's this like side where it's assumed that it's better to be that, because it feels more comfortable, and it's able to kind of keep everyone very much separated and like avoiding uncomfortable conversations or talking about certain things that maybe don't validate their perspective of themselves. But that sense of, Amanda, you mentioned before, like knowing someone and getting to know someone, or someone coming to you and being like, oh, you changed my life, blah, blah, blah. Like to know someone, even like, what does that even mean? It's
Right.
like, I've created some idea. I assume certain things about them based on like a narrow perspective, but
We've hung out 3 times. You know me.
yeah.
You know, an
Oh, I
example.
know them. It's like, that's such a personal thing.
Something that was said recently, like, I've been listening to the podcast for months. I know you. It's like, you don't know me. Oh,
No, even us that we're hanging out with you, I feel like we're in the process. We're always in the process of getting to know more of you, but not all of you.
No, I'm
But
close. Couldn't.
I don't even know all of.
And we won't ever
me.
be able to, because so much of our lives we experience separately. We experience like all of us here have,
Almost 2 decades without each other.
25 to 40 years where we lived in a life completely separate. So there's no way to even be able to know someone wholeheartedly. But like how quick, you want to jump to, like, you can even pass someone in the street and judge them.
Like, you
and
know
like
them.
just make a whole, like, turn them into a specific person just from that. Just
or
from
be afraid that
seeing
they do that to you.
Right.
that they could ever, because there's no way for
There's
them
no
to see
way
that side
for them to judge you.
Man,
They can't see you.
They can't.
They can't see you. That's the point. Like we don't see each other, and that's, I think, one of the biggest risks is the need to be seen. The need to even see ourselves in a certain way, because as soon as we do, we limit it. Right? And what are we trying to see? Something that makes us feel good.
The image, the curated image.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not until that's out of the way that you really, really start to be able to not see in the way of like, now you see it, but actually take in the details, on a whole other level, because you can't see everything, but you can take in a lot. And a lot of what you don't take in right now is based on what you frankly don't want to see. And that's based on how you want to see yourself. Bias is a bitch. It really is. And it's just because nobody wants to admit that they're manipulative. Nobody wants to admit that they want to know the answer and be the one that knows the answer and be the one that can lead the way and be the one that has control and be the one that can take credit. Like, nobody wants to admit that, but it's in there.
Oh yeah, it is.
For sure. I mean, it's always in there, but it's being able to fucking look at that without vilifying it, to look at it as a response to fear. A fear of not being enough, a fear of uncertainty, a fear of not knowing who you are, right? And if you see that and you don't vilify it, then you can be informed by all of it without doing it. But if you're not looking at it, if you're not aware that you have that incredible temptation once you're afraid to do any of those things and more, you're likely going to. And you're going to because you're afraid and you don't want to recognize that you're afraid, but to just take it in and go, yep. When I'm stressed, I am more likely to do something selfish. That helps so much. You can feel your body when it's getting tense. To actually just go, oh, that selfishness popping up. Whoa, slow down. Wouldn't that be nice to actually take tension and make it synonymous with selfishness?
I think so.
That'll change the game quick. And you wonder, like, oh, why am I so tense? And that may be,
why am I so selfish?
Yeah. Straight up. Oh my gosh. And then you can try and figure that out for yourself instead of being like, I'm tense right now and this is where I'm at right now. And like still show up, still make it about what you're doing instead of how you're doing.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I can't do anything until I don't feel tense, and then you can make it about being, I'm the most relaxed person.
Exactly.
I don't let anything bother me. I am peaceful all the time and I never get worked up or tense or frustrated or angry. And it's like, that's probably coming from a place of self-importance too. So then it's like, is it relaxation, or is it a curated perception of yourself that includes being a relaxed person? Because I think there's a big difference anytime you're holding on to being a certain type of person, even a relaxed person, you know?
Oh, God, yeah.
I love that. Just being able to, usually when you are feeling incredibly tense, it's usually in those moments where you are feeling like I'm not getting what I want, I'm not valuable, I'm not in control, and I feel tension because I'm thinking of everything from this very self-centered perspective. Usually they do go hand in hand. Not always, of course, there could be an outlier that I'm not thinking of, but at this moment it feels very straight on. And it's a lot easier to empathize with other people when they're in a state of tension and quote unquote, selfish tension. When they're in that state, it's a lot easier to empathize with them when you can say to yourself without judgment, like, oh, I very much could do exactly that right now.
Yep.
I could be doing that right now and not realize it to someone else. I'm person A, person B is quote unquote being selfish to me, but I could be being selfish to person C at that same moment.
Yeah.
And I have the potential to be selfish and tense with everyone at any moment. And just being able to admit that it's heartbreaking for you and the other person that you're empathizing with, because you can see and feel exactly what it feels like to be in that state of selfish tension. And then it just doesn't seem as easy to vilify, because it's something that you feel so relatable to, because it's something that you do already do.
And I was just going to say, if you're vilifying something in yourself, like whether it's that state, something you shouldn't be, degree of tension, relaxation, habits, previous habits, like if you're vilifying yourself for that, you're just vilifying everyone who does that.
Yeah.
Like it right away, as soon as, like we were talking about before, it becomes about letting go of certain things or certain specific things or this or that in terms of like the right things to be doing. Like anyone who is doing those things, if you're seeing those as like completely off limits, like you're going to judge them. Like I certainly started, like when I was working out a bunch, I would see someone who wasn't working out and I was like, I don't get it. How could you not take care of your body like that? And then I stopped working out so much and immediately I was like, oh, I'm feeling better. I don't need that sort of vanity validation, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, because neither of them are correct. It's that perspective of yourself, like how it makes you feel about yourself. So whether you do or you don't isn't as relevant as like how much you're just making it about yourself. And that's for every situation, like talking about the other day, what kind of environment do you want to be? Do you want to be the one that thinks everything is really important and means a lot about you? Or do you want to be the one that's just out there doing your thing and just not measuring or trying to live up so much to some self-expectation or societal expectation? Like what kind of world do you want to be?
Exactly. It's really just that. It's funny. The other night we were at karaoke and we were chatting with somebody, and it was exactly that. It was, what I'm doing is good, but it's because I'm doing it. Right? It's like, hey, we're all drinking. It's like, oh, we're going to go out and smoke weed. Oh, I don't do that. I don't want to do anything that changes my brain chemistry. While I have my third drink and a tray of shots.
And I smoke my vape cigarette.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. And it's just, I was like, that's interesting. That's a hell of a blind spot. Like and that's what it is. It's just a blind spot. I'm like, well, there's caffeine and sugar. And, right. But it doesn't, change my brain chemistry permanently. It's like, how do you know that?
No. But then that person conceded when I was like, well, long-term use has been proven to do permanent damage. And they were like, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, all that stuff I said and reasons I didn't do it. Nah, disregard it. Now it's completely questioning my point of view.
I don't even remember what we were talking about. Yeah. Excuse me while I go outside.
Oh, stop getting so deep about things.
Go
why do you gotta bring that stuff up?
Oh my God. But it's that. And if you don't recognize that you can do that, then you're never watching for it. You're never watching for it. And that's, I think, the biggest part about the spiritual ego, right? Is that you actually start to think that just because you see life in a different way than you did before, that somehow makes you better than you were before. Because as soon as you've got that, as soon as you're like, my life is better now, not I'm not making my life as fucking difficult now, but my life is better now. Right? Well, then all of a sudden, everybody who lives the way that you used to live or perceived yourself to have lived is less than you.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. Your life isn't any better. Your life is exactly what it was, what it has been the entire time. Life. It's your expectations of it that have changed.
Mm-hmm. And so your experience has changed with your expectations, and it is almost bittersweet, but not so bitter, right? Because you're just like, think nothing's actually changed. So what is there really to be quote unquote sad about? What is this bitterness? It's just a very like you almost have like this the appreciation for that bitterness, right? And then it stops being so bitter. Life stops being so unbearable because you didn't put this unbearable weight. You stopped making it about just what you weren't, and you just appreciated everything you are, which is your life in totality right now. It's all those moments, and those quote unquote missteps still brought you here. So whether you stumbled, walked, crawled, ran, you're still here. And there's still so much that you can appreciate. So there's nothing to be bitter about when we are just making the most of just being here now.
Said. And if there's nothing to improve, if there is no way to improve yourself, period, then again goes hand in hand with being able to lose, improve or not improve. What's the opposite of improve? Downgrade, lose yourself.
Right.
Be less. I'll go with that.
Right.
So you can't improve yourself. You can't become less either. It's like you're doing it one way or the other. You're being yourself one way or the other. And it's just like, as you maintain like, I'm doing this in order to improve or get better at this, then there's that measurement, there's that spectrum right away, instead of just being involved in what you're doing and making it not so much about how you're doing, but what you're doing, what you're producing, like how much you're able to produce in a sense. And that isn't from like a, capitalistic productivity perspective, but just like amount of things that you can do, or even like amount of variations of feelings and things you can go through. Like I really do think, and I felt it at retreats, I felt it since moving to Vancouver Island, that like days feel longer. And I think a lot of it is because I'm more willing to be alive. Like Amanda and I were talking the other day just about how much more everything feels like going through changes in our lives, moving, and like just feeling more of this spectrum, not like this one side, not this curated, like, comfortable. I thought it was I thought my trajectory was like getting more and more comfortable. And it's like, no, it just, the spectrum expands. So like, you feel a lot more depth to things. You maybe feel more anxious, when you feel uncertain, you feel really uncertain, and like deep fears can pop up, but like, that's just in response to whatever's happening. It's still your response. Like there's still that influence, and that spectrum just widens the more, as much as, we're saying like, there's been a lot of stuff that we've gone through, a lot of discomforts that come up. Like we feel fucking alive, feel fucking alive. That's for sure. And throughout the day, I think the more variations, where I started that with the feelings, like, maybe it's about doing a lot of stuff, but it's also like, how many feelings can I feel in a day
at the same time? Not even in a day.
Oh
my God, I can feel so much.
How many ups and downs can I go through in a day?
I feel excited and terrified.
Yeah, how well can I ride that inevitable wave that you're going to go through? Because if you're not riding it, you're trying to suppress it or mitigate it or just be more comfortable.
I thought about it, by the way. Deteriorate.
Right. And right. And you said downgrade, but degrade, like degrading.
Yeah.
And instead of like losing progress, like you regress.
Worsen.
Right. It was like, give me 5 more seconds. I could have,
No, fuck that. I looked it up. I was just like, I was thinking about it. No, gonna go look that up. I'm like, of course it's that. Of course it is. You see that, like, being able to go, I should be able to think about this. Nah, fuck it, and then go look at it. And neither one means anything.
No.
But now you know the word. You're just like, aha.
You got options.
And then I'll forget the word.
Absolutely.
But I tickled that that synapse for a moment and went, remember that? Yeah, that
Right.
deteriorate. That's a word. So that was kind of fun. But it's just that it's not making it about you or anything else. Like, it really isn't. It's being able to do something quote unquote embarrassing and not be embarrassed. Like, not even to think of it as embarrassing. And if you are embarrassed, not to think of that as embarrassing.
Oh yeah.
Like, to actually just feel the full-on red flush. Perfect example. We went camping the other morning. We went for breakfast at Smitty's. Andrew's like, hey, we should split something sweet. Somehow my brain went, oh, I guess we're just eating one thing amongst the three of us, and maintained that for like 10 minutes until all of a sudden one of you is looking at another menu. I'm like, or another item. I'm like, oh, are we getting that instead? And you're like, no, we're getting it on top. I'm like, oh, fuck, that makes way more sense. And would have had I bothered to think about it for a second. But immediately I'm like, that could have been embarrassing. I didn't care though.
Mhm.
Right? It was the ability to go, why is that embarrassing? Because I made a mistake? Because I think these people would never make a mistake?
Right, because you made a different guess.
Obviously, I must understand everything all the time or I'm a failure.
Why can't you read my mind,
You know what
Ray?
I mean? It's that. And because of that, sometimes we don't speak up. Because of that, we don't try things. Because of that, we don't, we tell ourselves stories that we can't do something instead of allowing ourselves to try and just deal with the fact that if we feel embarrassed, it's because we're overcommitted to this idea of ourselves. Mm-hmm. We have unreasonable expectations. That's where the embarrassment comes from. Not other people, not the situation, and not your performance. Unreasonable expectations. You can take that in, everything kind of changes.
Mm-hmm. I know you asked, like, when was the last time you felt embarrassed? I thought of day, man. Early at night, man. Champion of the sun.
No, and you were doing the karate movements in the front of the fucking row. That was dope.
I was. But I definitely I thought, I was like, oh my God, this could be so embarrassing. I was like, but we're gonna do it anyways because I'm gonna be there. I want to be there. It is Always Sunny in Philadelphia moment with my bro Andrew. Dayman, anytime.
And then some woman came over afterwards. She's like, I don't even know.
That was so weird, and I loved it.
But you made my night.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, that was such a fun song. Oh my gosh.
I don't know where it came from.
Met a woman, and so that's it.
Andrea. That's right. I remember her because she has a fabulous voice, and she was also singing karaoke. Yeah. And that's why I was like, I made a note to remember her name because in case she pops around next time, we'd be like, Andrea.
Right.
Good call. Yeah, the Queens Wednesday nights, they have some very solid singers.
Oh my goodness.
I do want to take a short tangent just for one moment because
the stage is yours, sir.
Yes. Work-related stuff, and we didn't really mention this last year, but I think we did talk about this earlier in the episode. I want to mention it again, the nomination for the podcast awards. I just want to bring that up one more time. If this comes out around July 1st or after, even if it's before, mark this on your calendar. As of July 1st at podcastawards.com, you can nominate Dualistic Unity in 4 or 5 categories this year. We are in philosophy, spirituality, and religion, best male-hosted podcast, People's Choice Award, society is another category. So we're up for a bunch. Nominate us if you enjoy the podcast in any of those categories. God, I would fucking laugh if we end up in the semifinal slate for society.
Mm-hmm.
That would
we were in the semifinals last year.
Great. For religion and spirituality. 2 years in a row we've been in the semifinals. But those are the only categories we've tried for.
I was going to say, we're in the most categories this year.
Yeah.
And we're going to push that because when July 1st, I think voting.
That's when nominations are open.
Yep.
So if this comes out beforehand, definitely set your calendar reminder July 1st. But we'll have plenty of posts out about it as well. And probably bring it up.
Appreciate any and all help.
Close? Is it like a summer thing?
It ends at the end of August. And then what they do is they invite, I think it's 25,000 people or something out of the number of people who have nominated. They invite 25,000 random people and then ask them to go and look at the other podcast nominees.
That's right.
And then vote for them.
Yeah.
So that's dope. So one of you, if you go and you nominate us, could get an invitation to come back and be one of the second tier.
I was last year before I was a co-host, so
I think I actually might have gotten invited back for that second round as well, because I think it is just anyone who votes.
Yes. It is anyone.
There's no way for them to know that
I assume that you know.
Yeah.
Well, then
That's
I'm
right.
voting.
Yeah.
You're allowed to vote.
I'm
You can
voting.
vote for yourself, damn it. Why the hell not?
Okay.
Right. There's my
When do you
vote.
believe in that?
Oh, that's
How much
Live
do you
democracy.
believe in yourself? Yeah.
I would never vote for myself.
Yeah.
Oh, that says a lot. That says a lot right there.
I didn't know if I was allowed.
Right.
I am
Amanda
excited.
votes for Amanda. It's like shit.
And then next year, I think we're going to go and submit season 7, which is going to start this summer after we finish off season 6. I think we'll submit season 7 to the Webbies.
Ooh.
The Webby Awards.
Webby,
yeah.
who always kind of misspells our name a little bit, so I'm gonna have to make sure that they.
Yes.
We're now on their email list.
Oh, yeah?
And yeah, I get them all the time.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll get that figured out.
Cool.
For the
Yeah.
award.
The Webby Awards. But yeah, there's a bunch of shit. It's going to be fun. This is going to be a fun summer. And yeah, that was all I had to say. Nominations.
Sweet. Yes. Check those out. It'll be fun. I feel like one day maybe we'll get to some sort of awards show, like in person. And that would be fun. Show up to one of those, dress up, pull like a Trey Stone, Matt Parker.
Oh my god, I was just thinking about that. Oh my god, I was just
tripping
thinking
on
about
acid, wearing dresses,
prom dresses.
Oh gosh, with wigs too, and this is like
and makeup.
Yeah,
they had makeup on, wigs, dresses.
Yeah,
I think.
back in the day.
I think Trey was in a pink dress and Matt was in a blue one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, blonde
Pretty
and
sure.
brunette. So who knows? We got to get going with some
man.
skits too. I was thinking of
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The pre-skits. I'm very excited for those to come out.
Oh,
we know
yeah,
there's
the
a new nun
pre-skits.
joining the
Yeah.
chapel.
Oh, that's gonna talk about rocking some boats. That's gonna be fun.
Well, we got like new collaborations coming out. We got local events happening. We might be doing a karaoke show.
Oh man,
Mhm.
love me some karaoke.
Sweet.
If we could be karaoke DJs, like hosts, so cool.
That's I think what might be coming.
Yeah, and how much doing all the more in-person stuff, because thinking of when I was in New York, I had my kind of routine schedule interactions, but there was less outside of my comfort zone. Wouldn't jump into as many new things, but we have a podcast about getting out of your comfort zone.
Literally.
So
It's your job.
everything that we do informs the podcast.
Dualistic Unity, it's all about the application.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Yeah, that's it. And it's fun to talk about, but it's talking as a product of the actions.
Yes.
Of your own actions.
Mhm.
Not someone else, not someone you read, not something, because then you're going to be, it's even there can be more manipulation in that when it's not coming from you as much.
No.
Because you're manipulating yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's only fucking
right.
yourself
You are your
over.
first victim.
It's all and most brutal victim if you're trying to put on a show, trying to see yourself more.
Because you have to believe it
I
first
don't.
before you sell the lie to someone else. You have to be the
Mhm.
first one who buys it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but if you don't, you'll just convince yourself, and then it's you look at certain things and you don't look at other things, and
Mhm.
there's way less potential for application in that because there's always so much on the line. There's so much on the line if you're trying to, maintain, having built something, and we were talking about starting over before. Most people, don't. They kind of build and build and build from this,
And they fear starting
beginning,
over, yeah.
and they're more petrified of starting over. Everything's on the line throughout their life versus continually starting over, having more of that mentality every day or every year, kind of doing a reset. But all the things you've done, accomplishments, way someone might see you or how you see your life, can't mean anything about you if you're going to start over. Because if it does, then you're going to try and maintain that, and then it's just gets more and more tense. It's all about you.
This has been weird.
Yeah.
I gotta say, a Thursday afternoon episode, not something I'm used to. And not that it makes much of a difference, but it kind of did. It did. All of a sudden, it's just middle of the afternoon. We went for lunch before recording this. So,
Not toddlers.
one more announcement before the end of the
Toddlers.
episode. As I may have just clearly hinted, our schedule has changed. If you go to dualisticunity.com and click on the group schedule button in the navigation bar, you will have a downloadable calendar that you can check out our new schedule. We have changed when we do our episodes and groups throughout the week. So now you will catch us Monday to Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern time, more often than not starting. And then we have a group after that. So that means you can join us in the evening after you've had your dinner. Chat with us, join us on a group Zoom. We're going to have a group Zoom in about 20 minutes from now. We're going to take a break in 4 minutes. So if you would like to join us on a tier 2 call, you can do so. As well as if you are not on Patreon already and you would like to join Patreon, you can save $150 on the upcoming Port Alberni retreat, which is going to be dope. The Port Alberni retreat is coming November 2nd. If you haven't been to a full retreat with Dualistic Unity, this is a fantastic experience. This goes from Saturday to the following Sunday, which means all you need to do is take off 1 week of work, just one, from Monday to Friday, and then it's the 2 weekends. And so you get all of this time with us. We're going to be at a fantastic location. We have a chef making all our food. We have live music twice in that week. We have 2 yoga classes. We have a massage therapist that's available.
Also offers Reiki.
That also offers Reiki. We're also going whale watching. We got a 3-hour fucking charter for just our group to go whale watching. We're going to see some orcas and some humpbacks. It's going to be fucking just amazing. And likely some psychedelics will be done. Just saying. There's a fantastic gazebo with a wood stove, some comfy couches, such warm blankets. There's a pool table in one room. We do karaoke. It's the dopest fucking experience, and it's possibly my favorite location. So keep an eye out for that. If you're tier 2, you save $150. If you're a tier 3 supporter, you can save $350.
Big time savings right there. It is one of the coolest locations. Like going to a mini retreat is incredible, and we've done a bunch of cool locations there, but this is really like what a Dualistic Unity retreat is all about.
This is it.
Like there's 2 forests, a third one that like we may check out this time around that we haven't even checked out because the 2 are just so cool and as they are and huge and like a lot to explore. But yeah, I mean the whale watching, the river out back, the whole grounds, it's like on this estate with a big yard, and the lodge is like classic wood log cabin sort of feel. Like you really feel like you're just camping in the woods in like the bougiest cabin ever.
And every bedroom has its own bathroom.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Shower, bath, the whole thing.
Indoor fire pit inside the house. There's a fire pit inside the gazebo. There's an outdoor fire pit that's next to this waterfall.
The bonfire pit.
The bonfire where the deer come to eat in the morning.
Oh yeah, in its own section.
Yes, and it's got a whole bunch of like seats around the big bonfire pit. And man, do we like us a bonfire.
Oh yeah.
The Netherlands, we had a big bonfire. The last 2 times we were in Port Alberni, we had a massive bonfire. So if you'd like to join us, we'd love to have you there. It'd be dope. But do take advantage of those Patreon discounts if you're going to join us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or don't if you don't want to. I mean, that's okay too.
Right. Every retreat ticket goes towards making another retreat happen. So the discounts are great, but if you don't necessarily need them, then every dollar that you're spending on that ticket is going to go towards us making another retreat happen for someone else to join. Other opportunities. So it's like it's a wonderful domino effect.
Pay it forward.
Pay it forward.
Did you guys ever see that movie?
I don't think so. I know the expression.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So there was a movie called Pay It Forward, and it was all about this kid who, had a number of experiences where basically somebody just did something nice for someone else for no good reason. And so the kid kind of picked it up, and then the kid did something nice and died. And so there was it was a sad movie. But the point of the movie was to do something nice for others without asking anything in return.
Well, that's what I thought was real charity was anonymous. Like they said that real charity is anonymous because you're not looking for credit.
Correct. Exactly.
And it's fulfilling in yourself.
Yeah.
The whole thing, not about being seen or looked at.
I gotta say,
you can't escape yourself.
Walking you guys through that storyline to the cliff where the child dies at the end was just a visual feast for me. Just to watch your expressions, like this is where'd that go?
Nice guys do finish last. It seems like.
Well, nice guys finish last in the race to be an asshole. Let's just say that.
There you go. Sometimes die young, but.
And on that note, on that positive note, we're going to wrap up this episode here. and say thank you to everybody for joining us. This has been a lot of fun. It's been a weird week, admittedly, like a lot of stuff going on, changes to the schedule, finding new places to hang. We got business meetings with local people here in town this week. It's fucking dope. Exciting stuff. So if you'd like to find out more, join us on Patreon. If you can't join us today, join us on Sunday, because Sunday's the best day and it starts in the morning.